I'm sure most people would understand that the majority of women out there, we are all holding some form of sexual trauma in our body. And we need to be more aware of sexual trauma, because when you hear the word sexual trauma, you think about sexual assault. You associate it with a time when somebody was held against their will, or it was non-consensual in some way. But the truth is, sexual trauma can happen during consensual sex. Sexual trauma can happen when you're with a partner who's really lovely, but your body isn't ready to be entered yet. It hasn't come to the space of being ready. Men are like fire. They're very focused and they're very ready very quickly. Women actually aren't. Women are a lot like water, and we flow, and our bodies actually need to be softly and slowly opened up most of the time. If we're When we're younger, it's a little bit different, but when we've got things like work and children, etc., our bodies need to take that time to fully open to be entered. And if that hasn't happened, if you're entered too quickly, that can actually create a trauma, a sexual trauma within your body. Also, if you were carrying the not good enough around when you were younger, and you had sexual encounters where you didn't actually really want to have the sexual encounters, or they just turned out to be really bad, and you were just laying there going, what do I do? I'm not going to leave. I'm just going to wait till it's over, and then, then I'll be able to get out of here. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave my body and let it have done what it needs to have done, and then I will deal with it a bit later. Well, what that does is that creates that separation in the psyche, and it creates that sexual trauma, which is actually more common than you could possibly understand. And when I work with people who have sexual trauma, there's so many things that I can work with that can happen over a few sessions. But sexual trauma is something needs longer time to work with. It needs a lot more sessions. And the reason for that is sexual trauma comes into our body and is created from speed. And when you're dealing with sexual trauma and you're healing sexual trauma, the key is to stay in your body and go slow. You can't go in super deep and super fast and do loads of healing work and fully integrate the healing of the trauma in your nervous system, in your ancestors, and do it all in a couple of sessions. It is something that needs to be given the honor of the sacred feminine that was needed in the first place to not create the trauma, and that is slowing everything down, staying aware in your body, feeling what's going on in your body, and then being able to process it as it happens. So with sexual trauma, we slow everything down and give it the time and the space that it needs. And the reason that healing sexual trauma is so important is because the sexual trauma usually lives and holds itself in the nervous system around the hips. And the hips and the pelvis and the womb area for a woman is also our center of power. It is the place where we hold most of our power. So this is another reason why women get to a certain space in their life and their work and they can't quite go any further. And that's because it's time to dive into this trauma down here. And it's not recommended that you go straight into sexual trauma. Sexual trauma usually comes, healing of sexual trauma usually comes after you've done quite a bit of work. And that's just the natural progression for the body and the psyche as to where it's ready to go. Again, slowly but surely, working with that nervous system to build that in and do that healing in a way that the body can fully integrate it. Healing is not some big explosion that happens and you release something from your body and it's all gone. You need to then integrate what's happening afterwards. You need somebody who's trauma trained to be able to, once something is expressed in the body, is to heal all of the parts, close off and finish the cycle that needed to happen, and create safety in the body again. And that is what is not happening so many times out there. This is a good moment to talk about how there are spiritual workers, and there are so many people that work with energy who are actually re-traumatizing people. They don't know they are. They're not meaning to. They are simply super powerful beings who don't understand the power of what they are doing. So if you have a body worker that you work with and you can feel things being released and then afterwards you feel really wobbly, that's not okay. You shouldn't leave anywhere feeling really wobbly. Emotionally, if you're crying a lot after sessions, that's also not okay. You want to have somebody who's able to guide you through a practice to integrate what it is that's just happened in your body. I see it a lot in breath work. Incredibly powerful body workers who do massage and can release big things from people. People who are giving experiences of rites of passage who aren't actually trauma trained. This can actually all unfold in these events. And I have sat in circles where I've had really beautiful experiences, but I have known and I could feel in my body that the facilitator was not trauma trained, and so that I couldn't go to the depth and I couldn't join in the depth that I wanted to, because I knew my body told me very clearly that this will not be held. This person is not trained to hold what it is that you need to release. And so I was able to trust my body to find the right people and the right facilitators who have the trauma training to be able to actually help and support me to release that from my body. And that's something that I want you to really listen to when you go to people, when you go to book with people. Ask your body, is it safe for us to go? Is it going to be okay? Or are we just going to be re-traumatized? Because opening these things up without closing them off, without integrating them, is re-traumatizing you. And especially if we're dealing with things like sexual trauma, if anyone's working around the pelvis, there's so many beautiful embodiment workers now, and a lot of them are great. A lot of them are trauma informed, trauma trained, and they know their stuff. I worked with a woman the other day in the embodiment work, and she was fantastic, and it was the way that she allowed the nervous system unfold. She was very good at what she did. So there are great people out there working in this space, and there are also some that just, like I said, they're not doing it deliberately. They just don't understand the power of what they're doing. And if they're not trauma informed and trauma trained, then they're not actually able to close this off. They're not able to have you feel it safe in your body. They're not able to help you feel truly safe in your body and integrate what it is that they've just been able to do. So I want you to start thinking about that with your body. And if you would like to work on sexual healing and healing sexual trauma, then I can help with those initial phases and really healing those parts of the body so that you're able to do things like embodiment work and breath work and things like that, because you've done enough of the healing trauma work to understand what's going on, and then you can step into those other fields. So if that sounds good to you, shoot me a DM or book with me via the website, because I would love to support you in that. And if you are somebody who offers those services to other people and you think, hey, I am really powerful and I would like to learn more, you learn more by doing. Come and heal your own trauma. Come and understand what it is that you are doing, and I can support you in learning the ways that you can also do that for your clients.